Hello and welcome to Boxing in Your Face. My name is Joe Cortez, international boxing referee from Las Vegas, Nevada, the boxing capital of the world. Well, you know what? A lot of fans have been asking me about my career, the beginning of my career. Well, let's start way back when I got introduced to boxing by the great fighter by the name of Gaspar Indian Ortega, who moved to my neighborhood in New York City, in Manhattan, 99th Street between Park and Madison, when I was 12 years old. My brother Mike and I got attached to Gaspar Ortega because he was into boxing. He wanted to talk to us and kind of keep us off the streets and keep us on the right track. Well, little did we know back then that the great Gaspar Ortega would be more like a father image to us, big brother, father image, whatever you may want to call it. Gaspar was a good man for us, a good influence for us in our lives. And that's what we try to do today, my brother Mike and myself, go out to the neighborhoods and try to talk to these youngsters and keep them off the streets and keep them on the right track. We don't want to see these kids get involved with gangs, with drugs, dropping out of school. And Gaspar really taught us a lot, made me the person that I am today. I'm very grateful to Gaspar Ortega because of that. So let me go back a little bit and start when my brother Mike Cortez, who was Mike Golden Boy when he turned pro. But prior to turning pro, he got involved with the Boys Clubs of New York, got me involved because I didn't want to fight. My brother Mike started first with the Boys Club little tournaments we had with young kids. And when I was 15, I got the nerve and the urge to see that maybe I wanted to be a fighter like my brother Mike because he would come home with some beautiful trophies. And I said, gee, you know, I got a little jealous. I said, I think I can do that as well. Well, little did we know that the following year, it was now 1960, I joined the Golden Gloves along with my brother Mike, the novice division. And as a novice, I was a 112-pounder flyweight. My brother was a featherweight. We went into the Golden Gloves, and we won the New York Sub-Novice Golden Glove Championships. Two brothers, with a crowd of about 15,000, 16,000 fans in Madison Square Garden. And to us, that was a great honor. That was a great accomplishment. That was the beginning of my boxing career. That same year, my brother Mike and I took the Spanish Golden Glove Championships. I took it as a 118-pounder, and my brother Mike took it as a 126-pounder featherweight. Then, the following year, we went into open competition where my brother Mike and I went into the New York Golden Gloves tournaments. Again, we succeeded and won the open division. I won the 118-pound bantamweight championship open along my brother Mike, who took the 135-pound championship. Well, that was a great accomplishment for us. Then, that same year, months later, we competed in the Eastern Golden Glove Championships, the tournament, where you had to fight about 5 times in 3 days. And the last night, the semifinals and finals were held in Madison Square Garden. And there, my brother Mike and I, again, took the Eastern Golden Glove Championships. I took it as a bantamweight. My brother Mike took it as a lightweight. That night in Madison Square Garden, it was a great, memorable night for me especially, and my brother Mike. But I knocked out 2 opponents. And these opponents were not no flukes. These opponents were champions from their respective state. So we had the Eastern Championships, and the West Coast had their championships, and we met then for the National Intercity Golden Glove Championships in Chicago in 1961. That's where my brother Mike and I again took the National Intercity Golden Glove Championships at the old Chicago Stadium. My brother as a lightweight, myself as a bantamweight. That same year, I took the Spanish Golden Glove Championships, and it was a great honor for me to be involved in that tournament. Well, after that, I turned pro when I was 18 years old, and I had an 18-1 record as a professional. My brother Mike had like about a 22-8 or 22-9 as a professional when he retired. But we had a lot of fun training and kept us off the street, taught us a lot of self-esteem, disciplines, confidence level, all goes up with boxing. And I retired young, and I made a comeback back in '71 after being retired 3.5 years. Came back, had another fight. I won the fight. That final fight of mine was in Puerto Rico. I had about 10 fights in Mexico, about 1 in California, which is my first pro fight, about 3 or 4 in New York City, and it was a total of 18-1. And little did I would know back then that I would become a referee. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I was an executive manager at the El Conquistador Hotel in Puerto Rico when I moved there back in 1969. I met a gentleman by the name of Pat Masher, who used to referee my fights in New York City during the Golden Glove tournaments. Well, when Pat Masher came to Puerto Rico, he said he saw a sign that says Joe Cortez, you know, and he just thought that the name really rang a bell, so he called up the operator and wanted to speak to me and wanted to find out if I was one of the Cortez brothers from New York. I said, yes, I was. Now, this is back in 1976. That's when we crossed paths at the El Conquistador Hotel. I was moving to New York in 1977. So when I got back to New York, I gave Pat Masher a call. And Pat said, Joe, what are you doing now with boxing? I said, I'm not doing anything. He said, Joe, why don't you get involved with the Golden Gloves? You know, there's not too many Hispanic referees in New York City right now. It'd be a good opportunity for you, being that you already have a good track record as an ex-fighter. Well, I said, you know, it's something I wouldn't mind trying. Now, this is the beginning of 1977. Well, the Golden Glove tournament was right around the corner, and he introduced me to Johnny Defoe, who was a coach with the Police Athletic League, and he suggested that I start working with the PAL tournaments that they had, boxing young kids. And he told me, Joe, just come down to the gym, come down and we'll give you a PAL t-shirt. You just come down with the white slacks and white sneakers and move around with these kids. And I did that. I kind of liked it. He said, Joe, you got natural ring mechanics here in this fight. So you really move around you're real swift, you're real smooth. We like the way you work. And I said, well, you know, that's the way I used to fight. I was a real smooth fighter, always moved around the ring, used good ring mechanics, and that really helped me a lot to become a referee. Well, I did the PAL tournament, a couple of weeks of that. They see, you know, the Golden Glove tournament was right around the corner. They got me into the Golden Glove tournament. Pat Masher and Johnny Defoe said, Joe, you probably have to do the preliminary fights, and maybe next year you do the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. First year, you're never going to do that. Well, one night there was a big snowstorm in New York City during this tournament, and when I got out to Brooklyn, there was no referees available that night. A big snowstorm, but a lot of these fighters showed up because if they didn't participate in the tournament, they'll be eliminated. Well, every fighter showed up. They had a total of 27 sub-novice fight, being beginners. So I was the only referee, and you know who got stuck doing 27 fights? That's correct. So I got stuck doing 27 fights, and to me, that was like the best school you can go to in one night. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. They were very pleased with my performance, and little did I know that they said, Joe, you know, next year we'll see you in the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. No, that didn't happen. I got a letter asking me to participate in the quarterfinals. Pat Masher, who was my mentor, said, Joe, nobody does the quarterfinals the first year. You're very lucky. So they gave me the quarterfinals. He said, I guess we'll see you next year. No, I got another letter to be involved in the semifinal tournament and that same Golden Glove tournament. And I did the semifinals, and Pat Masher said, Joe, you're one lucky guy. You're never going to get an opportunity to do the finals until next year. Well, little did I know, and to his surprise and my surprise, I got called to do 2 championship fights in Madison Square Garden, and the first championship fight that I refereed that night was former world champion Juan Laporte, a featherweight. Well, I refereed his fight, and I did another fight that night, and after the tournament was over, Pat Masher called me up and said, Joe, you really impressed us and you impressed the New York State Athletic Commission. Frank Morris, Deputy Commissioner, wants to talk with you. So I walked to the New York State Athletic Commission. Frank Morris said, Joe, we saw you do Golden Glove tournaments. You did an outstanding job. I was surprised because I thought the first year, well, yeah, you make some mistakes. And he said, Joe, you did enough for us to be satisfied to say we want to put you in the professional ranks. Not only refereeing 6 months, which is something unheard of. And I told referees out there, 3 to 5 years before you even consider going pro. I've had an extensive background as a fighter, about ring mechanics, and I was always thinking good on my feet. So they felt I was ready to go pro. And they promised me that they would work me through to get me to the right level, little by little, so I could develop to be a top-notch professional referee down the line. So I jumped at it, took the opportunity, and would you believe that that's been 34 years since then. And then 5 years after that, I refereed my first World Championship fight, Aaron Pryor against Miguel Montilla. That was in Atlantic City. And I've done so many championship fights since, and I will tell you, I stopped counting when I reached 160. And so whatever the numbers are today is immaterial, but all I can tell you referees out there and you fans, boxing is not an easy sport to get into, especially as a referee. We have two fighters' lives in our hands, and my thing is to try to be a student of the sport, try to leave no stones unturned. I talk to other referees, we create different scenarios to make boxing better and to get to raise the bar as we go along. I'm never satisfied with my performance. I always want to strive to do better. So with that said, guys, next week I'll give you a little bit more tips on refereeing. Take care. God bless.